Now, what do you want me to say?
Well, wow. Do you remember Dad's dad?
Your father?
Yeah, Howard Hawkins.
You mean Milton, don't you?
No, his dad.
Oh, his dad. Yes, I remember him. That is a picture. Get that picture up there. Your dad right there, and Milton and Harris.
Okay.
That's Eldon, isn't it?
No.
Isn't that Eldon Karras?
That's your grandfather. And yeah, that's Eldon and that's Karras.
Yeah.
Good night. I can mixed up. See, you can't go with what I say. Yes, I remember when we were first married, they still raise strawberries. And such beautiful strawberries. And then Vernon took over and sold berries. And I haven't had a good berry since.
I showed Sue today where his strawberry patch, Vernon's strawberry patch was.
Oh, yeah. Now, he and Mary worked hard there.
Yes, they did.
They worked hard there.
Didn't he do wasn't he very musical too?
Your grandfather went to Ada to college, took up music.
Is that right?
Yes. Well, you're down there, aren't you, Ada?
Yes.
Well, look way back in the who's who's, and I bet you'll find his name there.
I certainly will
Howard
do that.
Hawkins. And he taught, and Madeline and I, she was a little girl and she was going to have her hair cut. Well, we didn't go to beauty parlors, you just went to the barber and had your hair cut. And he said, "You're in relation to Howard Hawkins?" And I said, "Yes, that's Madeline's grandfather." He said, "Did you ever hear him play?" I said, "No, but he did sell organs at one time, when the organ, just think how many years that was. And he sold organs, and he said, when anyone in the neighborhood knew that Mr. Hawkins was going to demonstrate an organ, they called all the people in from all around the neighborhood, and Hawkins drove up with the wagon, took his organ off and took in the house and demonstrated. And I can remember so well, this barber said it was right when Turkey in the Straw came out. And he said, you never heard anybody play Turkey in the Straw like that man could on that organ. And I never heard him play. Of course, that Grandma and he had a piano, because Grandma Hawkins played the piano. And I know that when Milton was a kid, in school, that he wanted something for the school or other, and they didn't have the money for both things. And he said, we'll get a violin, or we can get whatever it was that Milton wanted. Well, he knew that his dad wanted a violin so bad that Milton said, all right, get the violin. I remember that so well. Get the violin. I bet you never heard that story.
No, I
before.
didn't.
It just happened to come to me because of the music.
Now, Grandpa Hawkins died in 1933.
I don't know, you got your
Well, I don't know if that would that be
family
on?
tree on
Well,
there.
Oh, yeah, I guess it would be. But that's what was on the gravestone today. That's all. He died.
Was it
Yes.
33?
Yeah, he died in 1933. When did you and Eldon get married?
26.
26.
26. I remember that Grandpa Hawkins was walking with a cane at last. And Madeline was just a baby, and she was so afraid of that cane. And when we'd go out there, we went every day, he'd hide the cane so she couldn't see it. Because she thought that was, I don't know, what would a kid think a cane was
I
for?
don't know.
But she was afraid of that cane.
Do you know anything about their parents, which would have been my great-grandparents?
I don't know a thing about Grandpa Hawkins's relatives, other than he had a brother. And what was his name? Uncle Dal. Uncle Dal Hawkins. And he had 2 children. I met them one time at a funeral. I believe it was your grandfather's funeral. That they came, it was a funeral that they came to. And then when I went to Columbus one time to a Teachers Institute, here that cousin was working in the cafeteria where we went to eat. That's the only thing I can remember. His name was Dow, Uncle Dow.
Well, do you know how long the Hawkinses lived out there at Benton before?
I have no idea.
Because Dad was born in that house, I know. Was Eldon?
I don't know if he was or not. But I know that Grandpa Mac gave him the money to buy the house.
Oh, really?
Grandpa Mac did, helped them get started to buy the property. But if they paid back, I don't know.
Dad was born in 1913, so I know they lived there then.
Oh, yes,
So-
it was. Yeah.
And was Eldon living there when you met him?
Yeah, Eldon was there, and the girls were in California.
How in the world did they get all 10 of the kids in that house?
Well, how would you?
I don't know. I
They,
suppose just pack them in.
They had the 2 bedrooms upstairs, and they had a couple of beds in each room, I guess. But,
That house did not seem small to me when I was a kid, but today, looking at
you
it,
just can't imagine it being that. But my land, just think of the people that were living
yes,
crowded up like that.
that's true.
Yeah, I remember it was your father, when he was married, he and Roberta, they did some remodeling out there. I think they put the bathroom in.
I remember when they did that.
Oh, how could you remember that?
I was
You was pretty small, yeah.
probably 4 or 5 years old.
But you remembered that.
Oh, yes, because I remember using the outhouse out there,
Yeah.
and we had an ice box.
Sometimes I think maybe we ought to be using our house.
Well, it got pretty cold in the winter, I know that.
I don't know. I don't think we minded it, did we?
Well, we didn't know anything else. I mean, that's what you had, so I mean, that's...
And I know that we always put the old catalog, Sears and Roebuck catalog, out in the outhouse.
Yes, definitely.
And it worked all right. Why, now
Well, I remember Matty and Tater, in their outhouse, they had the Sears catalog, and they had a bucket of corn cobs.
well, people said they used corn
They did.
cobs, but I didn't know they did.
Matty and Tater had, on one side they had the Sears catalog laying there, and a bucket of corn cobs.
Wouldn't that be awful scratchy?
I would think so. Yeah, how did you get to know Matty and Tater, just from going out to see Eldon, or?
When we always went out home, I always called it home, every week, at least once. And I remember one time we stopped and Grandma wasn't there. And do you know that worried Eldon? It worried him. He says, "This is the first time I've ever stopped here. Mom wasn't here." Here Dick had started to preach. And he preached in Sycamore. And somebody got Grandma Hawkins to go to hear her son preach. And we happened to stop, and Grandma wasn't there. And here she was over in Sycamore listening to Dick preach, her son Dick preach. And it just about killed Eldon. He says, "That's the first time I've ever stopped at home and Mom wasn't here." I just can't imagine it. How close that family was. They didn't have a whole lot. And another thing about Grandma Hawkins, she graduated with every kid that she ever sent to school.
Is that right?
She went right through school with them kids, helped them every year. I remember when young Dick and Vernon were still in school, and she knew just exactly what they were taking up and what they were learning. And there wasn't a thing in the world that you could talk on that Grandma Hawkins didn't know. She knew the daily news. She knew everything. She was smart.
Well, is that where Dad got his, well, I mean, how Dad thought education was really important, and he really pushed
I imagine he did, because Grandma Hawkins, well, as I said, she graduated with she went through school how many times? 8 or 9 times, I guess. But she graduated right with every one of her kids. She knew what they were learning. And Grandpa Hawkins, it was in him. And I don't remember if your dad took violin lessons or not. Do you know?
I have no idea.
He certainly never told us if he did.
Well, anyhow, they bought the violin instead of some foolish thing that the kid wanted, because he knew that Grandpa Hawkins wanted the violin so bad. They had a piano in their house. They didn't have anything else. And that front room, you know, isn't too big, but they always had that piano there in that house.
For some reason, I didn't inherit any of that musical ability that the rest of the family seems to have.
Well,
Mike got it. Sue got a lot of it.
it comes through. Eldon loved music. But just like you said, he couldn't play or anything, but I guess when he was out there at Lycans, when it came to singing and all, he had a main part in the singing program. So I think he knew more about music than he thought he did. You watch Jeopardy at night on television? Oh, we wouldn't miss that. And I and Madeline both. If Eldon Hawkins was here today, we'd take the last cent we had and send him and put him on Jeopardy. Eldon knew everything. There wasn't anything new in the newspaper well, he just had an education on everything.
You know, another thing that Sue and I were talking about, and that's the difference between Dad, Eldon, Vernon, Dick, and I remember meeting Karis, but I didn't know him very well.
Karis was a good-hearted person.
But there was certainly a lot of difference between them.
But Dick, there's something that family had that don't come in most generally any family. They had brains. That Karras, with all his wild living and all, he liked the ladies, good. He was brilliant.
Was he?
He was working in a shop over in Galleon. And he made something in that shop that they produced more work than they'd ever done before. And he should have had a patent on it. Well, he just got too many lady friends, and I don't know where the patent went. But Karras, when he left Ohio, I guess he owed everybody in town and everybody in the country. But when he left, he told one other fella in that shop what he found out. And if he got the patent, I don't know. But I know he only told one fella when he left and went to Connecticut. Now, if he'd have stayed here and behaved himself, maybe he could have been a millionaire. He was a welder, I think.
Was he?
But he found some way or other that he could produce more material. But he never told anybody but that one fella when he had to go to Kentucky, or to Connecticut. I still write to her.
Do you?
But I haven't written to her, but she keeps writing to me. Once in a while, I'll go to the phone and call her up. And Karras and she have 7 kids, 7 or 8.
I think they're listed in this.
And they're all brains.
Are they?
They're all brains. One little fella, one of the girls had this little boy, and they call him Donald. And he stays with Karras' second wife, Carol Hawkins. And she said in his last letter, oh, I wish I knew where it was. She said that he hasn't been home all summer. Donnie's mother keeps saying, well, Donald, when are you coming home? Well, in September when school starts. He stays with Carol all the time. Really, she's raised him. And she tells about him. Maybe it's in that sack. Would you get that sack for me?
Right here?
No, here on my chair. On my walker.
On the walker.
That sack. Oh, that's it. She's always telling it that. He went out and picked strawberries and blackberries for her, and she made pie. But he won't eat anything but apple and pumpkin. I thought that's kind of cute, wasn't it? And she says, he's the head of his class. Oh, if I can get that, have that letter with me. And easy in school. And he feels bad when other kids don't get it. So he must be a pretty nice little kid. That would be Karras's. That would be Karras's grandson. So he's got the brains too. I guess I don't know what I ever did with it.
How many years did you end up teaching?
Huh?
How many years did you end up teaching school?
I don't know, to tell the truth. I taught in North Baltimore 3 years. Then I came here, and then I didn't teach for a while. Then I went substituting. And then when Madeline was just a kid, I went to Washington DC and took her along and went to college there for a whole summer. Oh, that was a wonderful experience. I just wonder if Madeline thinks back at the time she was in Washington. She was in the dormitory with the girls, and she had a great time. And I went and taught for the Adventists for about 5 years. They paid for my schooling up there, you know. And then Eldon took sick, and I went back in to public school teaching. And how many years? Of course, teaching for the Adventists didn't count.
Right, as far as retirement.
Yeah, my timing. But I must have 30-some years in. But how I ever got it, I don't know. Because Eldon was sick, and Madeline and I were taking care of him.
Well, what year did I hear you say was the first year you taught?
What?
What year was it, the first year you taught?
1926. And then I taught 3 years.
For $50 a month?
Yeah,
That's amazing.
$50 a month. That was big pay. That's what you started with. 50 a month.
Now, my pay, since I started in 1970, has gone up a lot, but it doesn't go any further than it did.
Well, I don't think, I don't know. Of course, I stayed at home, and I didn't have any board or room to pay. And after I got married, though, and I stayed at home and taught 1 year, I did pay. $5. $5. And I remember so well, my dad, he wouldn't take any money. And so, that letter isn't here. I just laid it out. He wouldn't take it. Give it to Myrtle. And so I always waited till everybody was at the dinner table and paid it, so that they'd know it was paid. Oh, gosh. Yeah.
I remember a picture that we had at home of Madeline playing the trumpet. Didn't she play the trumpet when she...
Yeah, it's back there.
She still has it?
Yeah, she still has it. No, that letter isn't here. I must have left it over there. Yeah, Madeline did pretty good on her trumpet. She couldn't play the piano because her left hand being paralyzed. So I bought her a trumpet. I bought her a second-hand one first. I guess maybe for $5 or $10, and then later on we got a good one. Still back there.
Well, the Mex side of the family was from Broken Sword, you said that. If we look in the Broken Sword Cemetery, you can find
Yeah, they're out there.
a lot of Mex.
And that big farm was theirs.
We're east of Broken
If
Sword.
Eldon had any, oh, we didn't care about farming, or he didn't either, but we should have. We should have bought that farm. Grandpa Mac's farm. That would be Grandma Hawkins' father. Because that house was a lovely built house. Because it seems like your grandfather, Mac, did carpenter work. And they had I wish you'd have known it, you'd have taken an eye at that house and that farm.
No. Which way from Broken Sword is that?
Well, it would be west of the,
Right in where the roads come together.
you know where the graveyard is?
Yes. Graveyard is east of town.
Now coming away from the graveyard, it's about the first farm on the right-hand side.
Going east?
Yeah, coming. Yeah, we should have bought that farm. Instead, he was working in town, and I was going to teach school again, but we should have bought that farm at that time. I never saw your grandmother Mac, but Grandpa Mac, he married a woman and moved over here on Main Street, up on the hill, almost right across from the hospital. We used to go to see him often. Hello. Yes. Yes, Julie. All right. It was Amy.
Is Julie the redhead?
Well, I don't know if Julie's a redhead or not, but she
Okay.
was here one time. See, I had the nurse, well, that thing's a blowing cold air on me. I had one nurse, Debbie Iyer, and oh, she and I had so much in common. She'd fix anything good to eat, she'd bring me a sample, or I'd fix anything good to eat, I'd give her a sample. Now she's got a better job. She admits people.
Okay.
But oh, I miss
You
her.
miss it.
And of course, these other nurses are taking over. And I know when they get a new girl, like you said, Amy's in, they go right with them.
Yeah.
And I just was wondering why she hadn't brought Amy over here.
Well, Amy works a lot in Galleon, and that
Oh,
might
she's
be
that-
why.
She goes that way.
Yeah, she kind of goes that way.
Well, they'll change them off.
Yeah, that might be.
Someday then they'll come this way. They even go as far as Harpster.
That's a long ways.
I couldn't believe how far these
Yeah,
people
they go a
go.
long ways. Amy puts a lot of miles on her car.
I know one girl that I like real well. She's an older person. She isn't a nurse. She just helps give the baths. And she goes clear up around Shelby. I just can't imagine it.
Well, I've got some questions for you,
Yeah.
if I can pick your brain. You mentioned the Mechs are from Germany.
Who?
The Mechs,
Yeah, they're
they're
from
from
Germany.
Germany. Do you know where in Germany they might have been
No, I
from?
never knew.
Were Grandma Hawkins' parents the first generation of Mechs to come here from
Yeah.
Germany? Were they?
Her father, Grandma Hawkins' father, was the first generation.
Wow.
But where from, I don't know.
I wonder if they were married when they came here, or if he married her once he got here.
I don't know. I have any idea.
Okay. I also remember some talk of there being an Indian somewhere in the...
Oh, that's on Grandpa Hawkins' side.
Okay.
Grandpa Hawkins' grandmother. I think it was Erie. Erie Indian.
Okay. That sounds
But
familiar.
by the time it got down to us, it was washed out.
Yeah, not much left.
But they do tell me, Grandma Hawkins told me, that Nanny, Aunt Nan, had the resemblance. She had the profile.
Mm-hmm.
And do you remember Nan? And she did. She had black hair,
Yes.
and her hair was just as black as Gertrude's was white. Gertrude's hair wasn't only a blonde, she was just a little bit whiter than a blonde. They were awful smart girls.
There were Gertrude, Nan, and Grace.
Grace. Grace was the nurse.
She was a nurse.
She was a nurse. She out on the kitchen sink. You go out, and up high, you find a pitcher, a milk pitcher, not a picture, a pitcher, and it's silver. Go get it. It's been there for so many years. Now that you mentioned that, Germans. And Grace was awfully bright too, they said. How can people be so smart?
Boy, I remember this.
Grace gave me that.
Yeah, I think, I remember you showing it
Well,
to me.
she had more than the picture. Needs to be, needs polishing. That's all I have to remember Grace by. And on here, the Jewish hospital. Did you see that?
Yes, you don't know which Jewish hospital that was?
No, I never did, and I can't see any more. Can you see any more than that?
No, that's all it said.
My gosh. This is my class ring from Bowling Green. It's black as your hat.
Oh, gosh.
See, that's silver and so is this.
Could I look at your class ring?
Yeah, it's Bowling Green, but you can't see it because it's... I wanted one and I couldn't afford a gold one. So I settled for
1924. EG. Oh, that's really interesting.
That's
Well, that is really an heirloom. That's oops, I'm sorry.
Now I had, this is part of the hammer. I had a little handle on that. But see that little hammer?
Mm-hmm.
Good night, I forgot about what all was in here. What's this? What's a piece off of something? What could that be, Charles? Piece off of something. But I kept it. Now this is Eldon's watch. He liked to watch. I thought maybe it'd tell on here about which hospital.
Now, I looked on the bottom, it says the Jewish hospital too, but it doesn't...
Oh, wait a minute, it says something else.
It doesn't say where to go.
Jewish Hospital, 1924, International Silver Company, silver soldered, SLO, 346, what's that? 8 ounces. August the 7th, 1922, I believe that says. Right down there, August the 2nd, 1922.
Yeah, patent August.
Oh, here's my little hammer. I wish I knew where the handle was. Well, put it back. If I die, you can come and get it.
So Grace was a nurse,
Yeah.
and then she was also a Sunday school teacher, is that what I remember?
Grace
No,
never went to church.
she didn't.
Now
Did
that I
she
know
drown?
of.
Is she the one that drowned at Sugar?
She's the one that drowned.
Um,
Oh, that was bad. She was home. Has that thing been running all this time?
I turned it off when you were on the phone, but other than that, it's good.
Grace was home, and Eldon and I had just gone to housekeeping. We had a nice bedroom and a nice living room and the dining room and kitchen, 4 nice big rooms. And we lived on East Street. And she was a person that loved pretty things. And our furniture was just new, and we got as pretty as we could afford. And it was nice. And she loved to come up there. And our bedroom suite had a bench, you know, and glass so you could fix yourself up. And I remember Gertrude, how Grace it was, loved to sit there and fix herself up. So I knew she was used to having pretty nice things when she was in New York. And I know that the time that she drowned, she was just here on vacation.
Oh, really?
And some guy from New York City sent a spray of flowers that covered the whole casket. So I knew she had a fella. And she was
just
cute.
here on vacation and she lived in
Yeah.
New York at the time.
I often wonder if she would have gotten married or not. And Grace always lived, when she came home from New York, always went to Ferguson's. Do you know where they owned a store here in town that sold china and all that kind of stuff. And she stayed with them because when she was in high school, she went to their house to work, to take care of their kids, and she went to high school. Grace. All 3 of those girls did that.
They all went to Bucyrus, the school,
Yeah.
didn't they?
See, they came into town and stayed at somebody's house to watch their kids at night, you know, and help with the kids for their board and room so they could go to high school.
Is that right?
Yeah,
Wonder why?
14, 15 years old. Well, they didn't have centralized schools like they have now.
There was no high school at that time.
No, I think Eldon class was about the first class that went into Lycans.
Oh, really?
They didn't have them.
Oh.
I remember Eldon telling about taking the Boxwell examination. Did you ever hear about them? You went to the country school for 8 years. And then you went to the county seat and took what they called a Boxwell examination. And if you passed that Boxwell examination, then you could go someplace into high school. And I heard Eldon telling about what was Miller's name that he run around with?
Good job, Ben.
Yeah, Benton.
Let's see.
Eldon Hawkins and
Would have
what was
been,
his Miller's name?
would have been
What was
Warren.
one of the Miller boys? Warren Miller. They took the last Boxwell examination and passed it. But then they got to go to Lycans to high school. That was about the first high school was around here, with the Lycans. I don't think there was even a Homes Liberty yet. I don't know either. But I know they took that Boxwell examination and they said if you passed the Boxwell examination, you was pretty smart. And they took the Boxwell exam. I bet people don't even know that there was such a thing.
I had never heard of that.
Well, you mentioned that you got married in 1926, so our dad would have only been 13 years old. What do you remember about him? Do you remember very much about him, what he was like? Milton, our dad.
When he was young.
Yeah, when he was 13, 14, do you remember what he was like as a young man?
No, they were nice little kids. they had a dog, and those boys just worshiped that dog, even Eldon. But I think that dog died soon after we were married. I do know this. And this is another story. It's a shoe story. In those